Hey everyone, welcome back to Slightly Dogmatic. I'm your host Jameson, and I'm here joined by my persistent co-host Dan, and we're here again to talk about some stuff. We've watched a few movies since we last had an episode, and we got some stuff to say. First and foremost, I think we got to address is we finally the world was finally gifted with Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League. The Snyder cut was released. I'd say just to start this off, I was first and foremost disappointed by the fact that we did not get the We Live in a Society cut. That was not in the final version of the movie. We got it in the trailer. It got us all hyped. It made us think that the meme Joker was going to be the real Joker. And unfortunately, it did not become a reality. But I don't know, Dan, what did you feel like overall with the Snyder cut?
Dude, it was a struggle to get through, honestly. What was it,
for context,
4 hours?
Dan and the 4 hours Dan and I and another friend of ours watched. We all watched on our PlayStations, and we were in party chat pretty much the whole time. So we all watched it together, and it was a trip. 4 hours together. It felt like longer, honestly.
We had to take we took like an hour and a half break in between.
Yeah, in the middle.
Right at the 2 hour mark. I don't know, dude. It was like a slog to get through. There's not a lot of movies that I would sit more than 2.5 hours for.
Mm-hmm.
And usually the ones that I would are going to be like the all-time greats. Like
right.
Any of the Lord of the Rings, I will gladly sit through 4 hours of. Like The Godfather 1 and 2. Like, those are around 3 hours, I'm going to say. But like when I watch them... I watched them recently in theaters. Not recently, but in the past 4 years or so. And I didn't think it was a slog to me, but this movie, I don't know. I struggled to get through it, honestly. And I don't think I would have been able to finish it if we weren't in like the party chat watching it together.
Goofing on it the whole time?
Yeah, like if we weren't watching it together, I probably would have had it open on like a side monitor, and then while I'm fucking off doing my own thing. And then, like when you're like not really paying attention and watching something, but you're convincing yourself you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that it was definitely better than the original cut, but I don't think it's saying that much. Just the Justice League, as whatever you want to call it, the Whedon cut was it was just a mess. It felt butchered. I think in a similar way to Suicide Squad, the original Suicide Squad, not the new James Gunn one, which will hopefully be good.
See, I didn't watch the original one, so I didn't really have anything to compare it to.
I saw it in theaters, and I was just like, "What was that?"
What is that? 2.5 hours? Something like that.
It was 2 hours. They wanted
2
to be
hours?
clean 2 hours because Batman vs Superman was 2.5 hours or so, and people complained about that. So
Wait.
Warner Brothers just doesn't know what they're doing, I think.
Batman vs Superman was only 2 hours.
No, it's 2.5.
Oh, 2.5. Okay, yeah.
Edging on 3, I think. Actually, it might be. I don't know. It's somewhere in there. It was long,
Okay.
and you feel it in that movie. So that was like part of the knee-jerk reaction to it, trying to cut down the time. To me, there's a lot of stuff that I liked way more than most recent DC movies, especially things like Aquaman. I like Aquaman just because it's some of it's so bad it's funny, like Call Me Ocean Master, and like a lot of like the weird tonal stuff I find entertaining. But as an actual movie, I saw pieces of stuff in the Snyder cut where I was like, oh wow, this could be compelling, except it's stuck in the middle of a 4-hour movie that is otherwise a slog, and there's so much like random nonsense that doesn't need to be in there that's just like super self-indulgent. Snyder does this thing where he like totally undercuts himself. Like there's like a really decent scene between Superman's mom and Lois Lane and Martha, one of the two Marthas, and it's just totally hamstrung because right afterward it's revealed that Martha Kent was fucking Martian Manhunter the whole time, and I was like, okay, like I don't know what the point of this is. And then it carries through to the ending with the epilogue with all the unnecessary stuff there. It just kind of proved to me that it's like you can't do all of this in one movie. It's like as much as you want to make it an epic and whatever, it just, I don't know. I think the average person who isn't like rabidly waiting for a 4-hour like super indulgent DC movie isn't gonna isn't going to be able to sit through this. Like they're going to have to watch like a mini series. I think it was smart to make chapters like that because I don't know I could have tolerated it otherwise. But ultimately to me it just showed that like at the very least you needed like a Flash and Cyborg movie combined somehow beforehand, or have individual movies for each of them prior. And because like that, like you don't see the Flash until like I think like an hour into the movie, maybe even more, and you really feel it. Like little changes and stuff, like tonally it's way more consistent. The color gradings are, there's no weird Henry Cavill CG face stuff. The final fight is a lot better. The final the last act is way better, I'd say. But I don't know. It's better, but it's not saying much. I just think that like ultimately, like if this came out on like if Zack Snyder had his way and this came out in theaters instead of the original cut, people would probably still have issues with it, and it wouldn't be getting nearly like the not the benefit of the doubt, but like the benefit of being compared to the Whedon cut and getting points for that. Like if you had this with no other context of like it being like the quote unquote improved version, I think it would still get torn apart as just being overly self-indulgent, and way too long. This movie, 3 hours might have been okay.
This movie reminds me of It too.
Oh, I see that. Yeah, I see that.
Where I don't know, they spent like in It 2 was also really long, not 4 hours, but it was like 3 hours, I'm pretty sure. But they spent like 45-minute segments on each character, and them kind of what they're dealing with after the events of It 1, and then what leads them to kind of come back to do whatever they're doing in It 2, like fighting Pennywise again.
Right.
And it just this is kind of what they do in Justice League, and it was just really disjointed. Where I'm like, I don't know if I care enough about these characters to dedicate all this time to learn about their backstory.
Yeah, right.
And I think this movie, I think it kind of highlights how my taste in superhero movies has changed, actually.
Oh yeah, how so?
And this is kind of like new thoughts to me right now, so I might not articulate it well, but I'm just kind of bullshitting what I'm thinking.
No, sure.
I guess like when I was in like college, right? Like high school and college, like peak Marvel cape shit. When all those first arc pre Infinity War movies are coming out. I hated those movies. And my criticism of those movies was that they're too like cheesy and corny, and I was like, I want a serious superhero movie like the Dark Knight trilogy, or you know,
well, you know what the Joker says: be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, so I wanted like something more along that vein, and I understand why I wanted that, because the Dark Knight trilogy, I guess, was like kind of like the gold standard when it came out of like what superhero movies could be, in terms of like people taking it seriously. Yeah. But I think like now, like just like looking at DC and Marvel, I feel like I'm still not like the biggest fan of the standalone Marvel movies, like the individuals, like the character movies.
But you appreciate it a little bit more?
I appreciate it a little bit more, and I loved Infinity War and Endgame.
Culmination of all of it, right?
Yeah, and I think Endgame and Infinity War are like that perfect in between for me. Of there's actually consequences, which is what I'm kind of looking for in like a serious superhero movie, but at the same time, it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think that's my issue with the Justice League. That, oh my god, I feel like it takes itself too seriously, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
dude, you're not. This isn't a movie where I'm like looking for.
It's not Citizen Kane, right? It's like
yeah, like this isn't a movie where I'm looking for like amazingly written characters and characters that I can identify with, stories that make me feel like a lot of like emotion. And maybe that's just a me problem, and less of a problem with the genre, but it's, I don't know. I just feel like it takes itself way too seriously, and in a
No,
way
I
that
agree.
Marvel has like mastered. I wouldn't say mastered, but
Well, in
they
terms
do
of
well.
it mastered it, yeah, they've mastered it the same way like M&Ms have mastered their specific form of candy. It's like it's mass produced, it has mass appeal,
Yeah,
and it works. You know, it's like it's at the point now like my parents, like especially my dad is watching stuff. He's just like, yeah, that needs more humor, like a Marvel movie. And
yeah.
you know, I always hear like more critical like film people online being like they're saying that not every movie needs to be quippy and have constant comic relief and blah blah blah,
That
blah.
was kind of what I
And
was like. Yeah,
yeah, and I think that I don't think every movie needs it, but I think with something as that asks for such suspension of disbelief as a superhero movie, you need that kind of levity to not just lose the audience entirely and have them feel like you're asking too much of them to take it seriously.
I feel like they tried to
And,
do it with like Aquaman and Flash, but it just doesn't work as well as the Marvel ones.
yeah, and I think like actually like to its credit, I think that what's there is decent, but it's not like enough to balance out the other 4 hours of just like lore and world building. And yeah, like you said, like I want to talk more about like the impact of it on like I don't know, like online discourse. And this isn't like real discourse. This isn't academic. I'm talking about like Twitter discourse and Reddit and stuff. But I will just say like maybe to like at least wrap up my take on this is that one, it's just like I said, I think could have been 3 hours and it would have been more digestible. Just like we don't need like the Icelandic or Scandinavian whatever like native, not they weren't native people, like small village people singing a song to Aquaman. That just felt extra, to put it simply. It felt like way too much. That kind of thing, if you cut out every scene like that, we probably could have got it way down.
Maybe they ran out. Maybe they felt like they were running out of time because they're competing against like Marvel, and Marvel has like individual movies for each character. Well, not every single one in Avengers, but generally they do.
Oh yeah,
they were like rushing, I guess, right? Because like
yeah.
I don't know when
yeah.
Aquaman came out. Did it come out after the original?
Yeah, Aquaman came out after, and that's why there was also like total tonal whiplash.
Yeah,
because Aquaman was like kind of a dick in the Whedon cut. He's like kind of just like unsympathetic. Is kind of like I don't know. There's like all these weird scenes involving Wonder Woman that like kind of reveals a lot like what we kind of knew about Joss Whedon prior, but now especially with everything that's come out, kind of is like, oh yeah, that's very on brand for Whedon. Unfortunately, like weird stuff like the Flash like falling onto Wonder Woman's boobs and then being all embarrassed and that being like a whole scene in and of itself. It's odd. And apparently Gal Gadot wouldn't even do that scene. And I'm not a huge Gal Gadot fan, but it's like, yeah, no one should be put through that where it's like they're super objectified. There was also there are also things where it's like there's a lot of butt shots of her that was just like, it's just, I feel like we should be past that. Whedon had that's also a Whedon signature that was like present in regards to Scarlett Johansson in like every Avengers movie that he touched. And it's just kind of like, okay, this is kind of gross. It's very on brand for like the history of comics. These days we get a lot more that are not so focused on that kind of thing. That's refreshing. But historically it's very on brand for comics. And it's just and then the other thing is just besides it being overly long. And anyways, Aquaman is like more sympathetic in this, but it's just the tone doesn't fit between this either of the cuts and Aquaman afterwards, because Aquaman was just so over the top and crazy. And there's appeal in that. And I found some appeal in it, but it's so inconsistent. That's the main problem with DC, is that they don't have a consistent vision. And then finally, I'd just say that, like, God, Zack Snyder is way too far up his own ass about like Christ imagery and just seeing superheroes as gods and just turning them into gods. Like, Wonder Woman is literally like a demigod or an actual god. I'm not sure actually what her classification is, but she functionally is like a god. Superman's a god. Cyborg can control every bit of technology in the world. That's what they reveal in this movie. It's like, okay, cool. So he could just do whatever he wants, actually. The Flash can reverse time. So these are essentially gods. Sure, in like power level, but just how literally Zack Snyder interprets it, in that there has to be some really weird scene of just the reverence for them. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe you really connect to it if you're like a huge superhero person, and that's like, to you, that's your church, is you reading comics weekly and stuff. And then, you're like, oh yeah, that's representing me. But I think for the average person who doesn't do that, it's just like it's so over the top and it's so heavy-handed, like all the Christ imagery around Superman, and they repeat it too. It's just like every single one of them has some form of like God imagery, and we just gotta chill with it. So, anyways, there's that. I think let's talk about that epilogue. Did that mesh with the movie for you? Did that seem consistent?
Are you talking about the Joker stuff?
Well, the Joker stuff, Ben Affleck waking up out of his like withdrawal dreams, his post relationship with Ana de Armas dreams, the Martian Manhunter thing, yeah, all that stuff. Everything that was like past them standing on the edge of the nuclear reactor, looking out over the world. And being like, yeah, we saved the day.
I don't know. To be completely honest, my brain was like mush at that point. So all I really remember was the Joker scene. And I don't know if
that is the most iconic.
Was that in the original?
No, absolutely not. There was I don't think there was any of the nightmare, quote unquote, night spelled like the Dark Knight. Yeah. Because yeah, that's the comic book stuff. Yeah, none of that was in there.
Like,
so
I don't know. I didn't really like the ending. I could see that. I could see people watching that in theaters and seeing that and being like, "Oh shit!" and like the way that like pre Thanos like Marvel
or
movies
like the original Thanos reveal of it was like, fine, I'll do it myself, except that was a post-credit scene. This was just a part of the movie. It was like, this was like, like this is them walking off into the sunset together. Instead it's Joker, it's like Joker telling Batman he wants to give him a reach around. Like
my brain was fried at that point. But I could see, I guess I could see why people were like wowed by it, but I also judged the Jared Leto Joker, so
he's so bad. So. It's just like, and it's, to me, it's so transparent that he just like can't make up his mind which Joker he wants to be. He's like, I'm gonna do a little bit of Ledger, and I'm gonna do a little bit of Jack Nicholson, and then I'm gonna do a little bit of me, and it's like it feels so cringy. It feels like that iconic YouTube video of the kid in high school giving his Joker performance. And going,
so
well,
I'm
the Joker, baby.
I didn't make much of it.
Well, it just it felt really tacked on. I'm pretty sure there was a quote from Zack Snyder saying that he literally only did it because he knew that this universe probably wasn't going to continue, and he wanted an excuse to have Jared Leto Joker and Ben Affleck's Batman on the screen together. So that's how he spent part of his $70 million budget in terms of like reshoots and stuff, is that he wanted to film this. They weren't even in the same place. They I watched an interview, and one of the producers was talking, I think. I don't even know if Zack Snyder was in the interview, but it was at least one of the producers saying like, yeah, like their schedules didn't line up. So Jared Leto and Ben Affleck weren't even on set at the same time for it.
Stupid.
And I think it kind of comes true. Like it feels all that stuff always felt like a video game cutscene, and it just felt really edgy. Also, Ezra Miller looked really weird in CG. Like it was just odd. It's just puzzling, and it's never gonna go anywhere.
That dude's his face freaks me out.
I think Ezra Miller's a handsome dude when he's not CG'd
I don't know. I think it's because the first movie I saw him in was We Need to Talk About Kevin, where he's like a fucking weirdo, and I won't spoil it because I know you haven't watched that.
Yeah, for sure.
Really good movie. He's really good in it, but he weirds me out. That's my bias against him. He has a weird face.
I think he's handsome, but anyways, it just felt really tacked on and indulgent, like a lot of the movie, and I don't know, it's just and this was meant to be like a fan service thing, so
let's talk about
let's
talk about the online kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna tie this in because I just watched Godzilla vs. Kong. Dan hasn't yet. And for background, I've been a huge Godzilla fan since I was very young. It's one of like my first like movie franchises that I really got into. It was something that my dad introduced me to, so that's something that's like a big connection for us, going back to when I was very little. And I've always loved Godzilla. It was something that like if I needed to have something on in the background, I'd throw on Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla or Godzilla vs. Mothra, and so it's something that I take probably more seriously than anyone else does. And not to say that like I have any I don't understand what Godzilla is. Like ultimately it was guys in rubber suits punching each other, and that was entertaining. That worked on a kid brain, and I don't think it's just nostalgia. I think that like for the time it's like a very interesting, and it's just cool that like that's what movies were for a little bit. where it's just dudes in rubber suits fighting each other. And so I appreciate it in that way for film history too. I like that Godzilla's been handled in a more complex way recently. I really like Shin Godzilla in a way that it parodied bureaucracy in the wake of a natural disaster, not natural disaster, like a nuclear disaster in Japan.
I mean, natural disaster too. We had that in Texas recently.
Yeah, right. It's yeah, like basically, and I really like the background of Godzilla, of him representing like a force of nature pushing back against humanity, it being the consequence of nuclear weapons, and then how they adapted him in Shin Godzilla to become like the embodiment of just the danger of radiation and fallout in general. So like I think that like, and how it ties into like traditional beliefs in Shinto spirituality, of like him being like the spirit of nature telling humanity like, yeah, you got to respect like what you're like the land that you live on and the planet that you inhabit. So I like him representing that, and so I feel like a little bit more of an emotional connection to Godzilla. I think that aspect of him is like the most compelling, besides him just being like a cool big monster. And so I like when movies try to integrate that in. The American Godzillas haven't really done that much, so I haven't, especially the recent ones. I think they've been okay.
I was gonna say, I was gonna ask, do you feel like the American versions have forgotten the message? Which I don't know about your opinion.
I don't know if they knew it in the first place.
Yeah, like and we watched the last one together. Oh, was that King of
the Monsters? We saw it in theaters together on the biggest screen in New York City.
Yeah, so I thought it was kind of weird that like I don't know, wasn't Godzilla kind of like a message against nukes almost? And then the American version's like, let's wake him up using a nuke.
Yeah, so it came out in 1954 originally. So like it started off as like Godzilla was very serious in the first couple movies, and it was a very clear anti-nuclear weapon message. You know, obviously Japan was still feeling the effects of having nuclear weapons used on them. So Godzilla was a manifestation of that anxiety and fear and the literal fallout and metaphorical fallout of that on the population. So that's why it was like actually that was like the genuine fear connection that like people could tie to say like, oh yeah, this is like a physical representation of all that we've experienced.
Yeah. I mean, I sidetracked this. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, you know, as goofy as it is, and it's stupid, that is like, at least that moment I felt like at least had some heart when Serizawa Ken Watanabe's character sacrifices himself to wake up Godzilla. I don't know, I just, for whatever reason, it does speak to me, this whole idea of like Godzilla being like Earth's protector, and him being like, you know, him not humanizing him so much to where he's like, you know, in some of the other Godzilla movies where he's like talking, or it's like the stupid the original Godzilla's son storyline, where he's just like a total goofball, and he's like, oh, come over here, son, let's go over, I'll teach you how to swing your tail. None of that stupid stuff, but like, you know, just him being like, yeah, he is a force of nature, but he is, you know, he isn't actively like actively working against humanity. He's just, in his effort to protect the planet, there's sometimes some collateral damage, and that's not good, but it's like he's not purposely trying to kill people. And so like I like that complexity to him. I like the idea of like there being like kind of like a mutual respect there between humanity and Godzilla. And there are moments of it, you know, in these American ones, but it's like the most superficial way possible. There was a great moment in the first Godzilla 2014 with Aaron Taylor Johnson and Godzilla kind of having a moment. They really wasted Bryan Cranston. He could have had some great moments in that too. But yeah, this new one is okay. Long story short, I think Godzilla got kind of sidelined. It was more of a Kong movie than a Godzilla movie. Action was fine. There was a daylight fight, which is nice. Still too much human shit. I don't know. It was mostly functional, but it still just felt like too much. I just don't care about any of the humans in this. I would classify it as like kind of mid. You know, I know a lot of people have felt satisfied by it. Something didn't quite click for me.
How would you rate it?
I think I gave it a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I give it like a 7 out of 10. Like, and like I said, like this is in reference to like other Godzillas. I'm just happy to get one. Like for me, Shin Godzilla would be like a 9 or a 10 out of 10.
Well, this is like Shin Godzilla was like a Japanese produced one, or
yes.
I think there's a difference for you, maybe.
No, exactly. No, yeah, absolutely. It's and also what's his name? Is it Hideaki Anno, the Evangelion guy? It's not Hideaki Anno. What's his name? Director Shin Godzilla. Who's the Evangelion guy? It is Hideaki Anno. Okay, that was right. Hideaki Anno directed Shin Godzilla, and yeah, he's also the creator of Evangelion and the director of it. So there's definitely something there, like someone who really gets, you know, like subtext and not shoving stuff in your face, and understanding like you could have big monster fights and also some underlying commentary. And so I think that's there you actually have like artistic intent behind it. So anyways, I think it's mid. Like I said, that's what it was. But what's really funny is I saw like a Screen Rant tweet that was talking about how like, oh, there's enough footage for a 5-hour Godzilla vs. Kong cut. Which, okay, first of all, that's like the stupidest take ever. It's like it's so just like rephrasing things for the sake of making content. There's enough footage of any movie to make it 5 hours long.
It was so stupid. It was so stupid that I think you sent that to me, and I thought it was a parody of like
like it was an Onion article
of like Justice League fans. Of like Justice League fans. I literally thought they were making fun of Justice League like fanboys.
Yeah, and then it got retweeted. There's all these guys now who are on Twitter with hashtag restore the Snyderverse because they want more DC movies in Snyder's style. And, you know, like I said, I'd probably watch them. I probably wouldn't enjoy them that much, but that they're like rabid about it now. And you know, some guy basically being like, yeah, you know, oh man, it's, you know, it's such a shame. But like even, you know, even the director is just like, yeah, this is like what worked. You know, it could have been longer, sure, but you know, this is how it worked out best, and I think it's good. And you know, whatever. Like I doubt it was even his decision to make it as long as it was. There was probably other powers involved that were obligating them to make it a certain length. And that's fine. You know, I think that it was okay. I'll watch it again in theaters. Maybe seeing it on a big screen will improve my take on it. But I just don't like seeing my boy Goji disrespected. Anyways, I'm getting off track. This is talking about that. Secondarily, I've also seen a tweet in response to the total length of the Mortal Kombat movie that is forthcoming this month on HBO, which I think we'll be watching too, right? We're going to watch that.
Oh, I saw that tweet. Yeah, I know.
And the guy's
exactly
saying,
what you're talking about.
It's such a shame that it has to be so short. It's a 2-hour movie. It's full 2 hours. Hour and 50 minutes, I guess. And it being like, it's such a shame that this movie is so short, not giving, you know, these are real characters, not just two monsters fighting each other. They need time to develop them.
This stupid. Like, oh my God. I used to be huge. Okay, I wasn't huge on fighters, but I was very obsessed with a fighting game, Tekken, when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So like I have touched on other fighting games. No one plays those games for the story. Like the story's complete trash, nonsensical. Maybe there's like some good like lore in terms of like you read the lore like about the game's lore like on the internet, but the way it's presented in game, fighting games are terrible at that. So to say that these characters need hours and hours of development is completely ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, fighting game characters are designed so that they could literally walk into an arena and go, I'm going to avenge my family. And then their entire history is written in their character design. And that speaks to character design. Like, I want to give full credit there. It's like, if you can tell that, you know, it's like, oh, you know, this guy probably had his arms ripped off or whatever, or destroyed at some point because he has robot arms instead. It's like you can infer that stuff, and you're meant to be able to get their story just from that. They're not meant to, like, you know, have like an entire solo movie setting them up, and there's a reason those kind of things haven't worked previously. There's not enough there to like warrant a, you know, like a deep and gritty and dark and Zack Snyder-esque interpretation of their stories. But it's this greater talk now that, like, apparently all of these Zack Snyder fanboys now believe that a movie can only be good if it has 4 hours to like meander and be self-indulgent and just kind of masturbate all over itself.
Isn't that more of a criticism of a film form rather than
it's like okay, you want a miniseries, you don't want a movie, then that's okay, you can want a miniseries, but this isn't what movies should be.
Yeah, like I don't see that. I don't see the merit in that. I feel like a movie should be good with like a 2.5 hour runtime. Like Lord of the Rings is good in any form that it's currently available in, whether it's the theatrical cut or the extended cut. Yeah,
we feel like the extended cut is definitive, but but it's like it's not invalid to watch the theatrical cut.
Adding to it made it better. It made a great product better.
Yes.
You putting lipstick on a fucking turd is not gonna make that turd not turd.
That analogy took a strong left turn I was not expecting. No, I agree. But I also think that, like, broadly speaking, these, you know, if you really want to, if you really want them, that these like specialized cuts of movies can exist, so that, you know, people who are fans like we are of Lord of the Rings can get that extra content that they need. Like Lord of the Rings benefited a lot from the extended edition, for sure. Like the extra scenes add a lot of context, give a lot more insight into the characters and their motivations and stuff. And also on top of that, just, you know, expand the Tolkien's world further within through the lens of the movie, and that kind of, you know, lets you become far more immersed. Like and it also is fitting just due to the inherent nature of the story, where it is a journey, and it makes it far better immerses you into that journey itself.
Yeah. To
be able to follow along individually and have it feel like, you know, a real project to take on. Like, I think that's totally valid, and it worked to its advantage. So I think I'm definitely gonna be biased no matter what. But like if this you know needs to be a thing for, you know, a niche set of fans, and studios want to produce it for that reason, more power to them. Just the fans shouldn't be, you know, confused into thinking this is how all movies should be, because if every superhero movie from now going forward was 4 hours long, I would just never watch another superhero movie, at least not in a theater, because it's just I know my time is worth more than that. I'm sorry, like I don't want to spend 4 hours in a theater watching like morose superheroes talk about how hard it is being either very rich or very powerful. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, like there's too many good movies out there to watch for you to spend 4 hours each time on a superhero movie.
It's weird, dude. It's just because it's so basic. It's like a toddler's perspective, which is like, oh, I wish this movie would go on for hours. It's like, no, okay. Actually, the only other movie that I feel like this is valid for, I would watch a 4-hour cut of Blade Runner 2049. If there was enough story content there,
yeah, I
would watch it. I was sitting in an IMAX theater watching it, and I went, I could watch this for 3 more hours.
Yeah,
easily.
But again, that's like a good product already.
Yeah, exactly. That independent, like the theatrical cut is really good on its own, and it leaves you wanting more.
Yeah.
There is no form of Justice League that leaves me wanting more.
Yeah.
So
I think that pretty much sums up like that whole movie.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, and I hope this doesn't make up. I'm gonna be it's gonna be so tiring to see this from now on, where every time a runtime is announced for a DC movie or anything that's like that isn't Marvel, that these Snyder fans can like latch onto, it's gonna be like, should have been 4 hours, maybe even 5, you know?
Yeah.
So let's hope this dies off quickly, because it's stupid and it's annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've given Zack Snyder enough rent-free time living in our brains. I think we'd move on. I don't know. What sounds good to you? I just finished Nier Automata finally. It took a long time for me to play through it for some reason. Ultimately, I ended up at like 37 hours of playtime on it. So like total playtime, I don't feel like it's all that long, especially for like a Japanese action RPG.
Let's talk about that in Persona.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so or maybe let's do Persona first, actually, because Persona I've got less experience with. I got less to say immediately. Yeah. I'm not that far in. I just finished like. I remember hearing there's a lot of tutorial in this game.
That's how every Persona game is.
Like the first 15 hours are tutorial.
I wouldn't say like they introduce new things, but they're not like, it doesn't at that point it doesn't feel like you're at the beginning or like just starting.
Mm-hmm.
So just like some extra shit that they teach you. Are you playing Royal or the vanilla?
Yeah, I'm playing Royal. I mean, if I hadn't bought it already, I could have also just played the regular vanilla version, because it's like available on PS5. Yeah, no, I'm playing Royal. I will say though, so far, art style's really compelling. I think that's really cool. Combat system seems like not overly complicated. You know, a lot of people described it to me as Pokemon early on. Like I remember, like I had a friend who was playing Persona 4 Golden on his PS Vita a lot, and I was like, "Oh, what's that?" He's like, "Oh, Persona 4 Golden."
Spencer Dinwiddie's brother.
Yeah,
Spencer Dinwiddie, NBA player for the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, my friend from high school, his little brother, is like a big weeb. it was just like, oh yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Pokemon, man. It's pretty good. And I was like, okay, whatever, like JRPG, whatever. um, and but no, actually, like I think the art style helps. I think that it doesn't feel like it has a whole. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't put me off the way a lot of the JRPGs have. Actually, another thing we should talk about is Final Fantasy VII Remake. I feel like because I finished that for a while. Speaking of like JRPGs that I like versus I don't I like Persona so far. I can already tell it's going to be a long ride, but I don't know. I'm engaged so far. Like I find the kind of like daily life simulator aspect of it compelling, which I wouldn't expect because typically I'm not really into that. But something about the art style and stuff. The characters aren't like as cringy anime as I've seen in a lot of other things, like even Final Fantasy VII Remake. So
fuck that series.
I think we need to talk about it. But no, overall, like it's cool. I'm looking forward to playing more. You just wrapped up a playthrough, right?
Yeah. So just for context, I just beat that game I don't know, a day or two ago. I played 3, 4, 5. I played the original when it first came out, and then I played Royal. I started in like November, and I played for like 10 hours, but then things happened that I got busy for some reason, and I put it off until like last week. So in the past 8 days, I put in like 75 hours into the game, and I beat it.
That's pretty insane, dude.
Yeah, I go like full. I have no life when I'm like super into a game, but so yeah, I just beat it. I love this game so much. It's I don't know, like it was. I played this before I did 4. Well, not Royal, like vanilla. And I don't know, like it's just like I'm looking for games nowadays. Like when I play an RPG and I pick up an RPG series, I want an RPG that's the quintessential RPG, which means turn-based combat, multiple party members that I can control, like a good combat system that's focused on like enemies, like weaknesses and like your character weaknesses and stuff like that. Which is why I also liked Dragon Quest a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
I
enjoyed that
game.
For the time that I spent with it. Like I couldn't quite finish the end game content.
Yeah,
because they started reusing areas and it kind of just like felt like a chore. And I was like, okay, I played a lot of this game already. I spent a lot of time on it as it was, so like I felt like I got my value out of it. I wasn't like too salty. I was just like, okay, this is where.
Just for context, I also Thanksgiving week 2017, I put like 100 hours into that game. Anyways,
yeah, you're crazy.
I don't know. It's just like the characters. The social links. I don't know how far you're in, like, but basically, like,
I just met the blonde dude, and
Ryuji. I love Ryuji. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and like, and then I had like a brief encounter with the blonde girl who wears the catsuit.
Yeah. So like, I think this is like a good point for you to get into the series because the palaces are pretty unique. In the past games, I think like if I've heard a criticism about them, it's that the dungeons are just like kind of generically, it's just procedurally generated, like random structures.
Hey, actually, can you hold that thought real quick? I'm gonna go close the back door.
Yeah.
Just take note of the time stamp, and I'll cut this out. Okay, back now.
All right, so it's like 39:20 to like 40 minutes.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I just had to close the back door because there's a leaf blower going in the background.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure it wasn't showing up on the audio.
Yeah. But anyways, so I don't know. I just feel like everything about this game, like the art style, is just so good. It's just like really simple. It's not like mind-blowing graphics or anything, but the style of it is just. It's just so nice to look at, like the color scheme, the menus, like all of that.
Yeah.
Like the characters. Like some of the characters you'll like more than others, but I don't think there's like a character in the game that I didn't come to enjoy. Like at least when you do like their social links.
Right. Is that like their loyalty missions in like other RPGs? Like
Yeah, so like basically the like when you capture a persona, each persona is bound to like an arcana. I don't know if that's like a what like religion or whatever that's related to, but there's like I guess different classes. I wouldn't call it classes, but and each class is kind of linked to like someone like a real life person that you like interact with, and you level up and gain more abilities by kind of like spending time with them and like chilling with them. Yeah, I loved everything about this game so much. The only thing that I wasn't like huge on was the extra content for Royal that they added.
Oh, really?
They like I like the content itself, but they didn't integrate it well into the vanilla story that's already there. So I'm gonna say like 95% of the extra content is just tacked on to the end.
Sure.
So it's not integrated into the original like school year that you play through, which I thought was a little weird.
But now they got strikers to follow up on it, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I played like that style of game a long time ago in like Dynasty Warriors 5 in like 5th grade. I remember I put like probably like 200 hours into that game.
Oh my god.
But I'm not into that style of like I don't know. What would you even call that? Like that Hyrule Warriors type of
Yeah, I don't know. It's like Dynasty Warriors. Yeah, like I feel like Dynasty Warriors is like the genre itself, but just like
I'm not into
like
that.
fighting a lot of like killing a lot of weak enemies at once, like hack and slash kind of action RPG.
Like, I'll still play it, but I'm not like huge into that. So I'll just probably like rush through the story and then I get it done. To be completely honest, I was surprised that you liked Dragon Quest, and I'm a little skeptical on how much you'll like Persona, to be honest, because it's so long.
A lot of people said length isn't the issue for me as much though, because I put 80 hours into Death Stranding, and that was like I was
you
like,
did
yeah,
80 hours.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so like I don't like length isn't the issue for me. I think it's just more about like mechanics wearing on me and stuff. And for me, it's like I really don't like a lot of like JRPG tropes of like characters and dialogue that like cringes me out, and then it makes me think like, oh, why am I here? But I've heard a lot of people say that like Persona 5 is like the JRPG for people who don't typically like JRPGs. So I've given JRPGs a lot of chances.
I don't know how much I believe that like that people like when people say that, honestly, actually. Because I don't know, it's like the quintessential RPG. Like I see a lot of people get into RPGs through like action RPGs, which I don't really consider RPGs, to be honest.
You don't think Dark Souls is an RPG?
No. Like,
I mean, it doesn't have dialogue choices and stuff really in the same way, but I think that like in terms of like building a character and specializing and
well, I guess the question is like, how do you define an RPG? And for a long time, a central part of an RPG was the combat system. So I guess I'm still stuck on that, like that aspect.
You love your turn-based combat.
Yeah, which I don't like. I guess Dark Souls is like action RPG.
Yeah, it's an action RPG.
Yeah, but I guess when I hear straight just RPG with nothing before it, I think of turn-based combat.
Yeah, I mean, you also, I guess JRPG is like your default too, because if you talk about like Western RPGs, you talk about like, I don't know, like Wasteland and what's like, I don't know, like the definitive Western RPG, like I guess like Mass Effect, like those modern ones, which it's just like it's like different goals in mind, for where
Fallout.
They're trying. Yeah, the original Fallout, absolutely, the original Fallout 1 and 2. For sure.
And like Elder Scrolls, I guess.
Yeah, OG Elder Scrolls, like Morrowind probably is what like a lot of people consider like the definitive like Western RPG.
Yeah.
They should just remake Morrowind, dude. Just do all the same stuff in what's it called? What's the engine called for Skyrim? Creation Engine. It's something like that. It's like Creation Engine or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I'm enjoying it so far. The art style's growing on me really fast. I think that's something that'll like keep me around. Like I will say that was a factor for me in Dragon Quest. Like I really like the it's like all the characters are Dragon Ball characters, So,
Yeah.
so I don't know. Hold on, I'm looking something up because I'm stupid and I'm blanking on the names of Akira Toriyama. Akira Toriyama. Yeah. Akira Toriyama's art style is just like iconic. I still have Blue Dragon on Xbox 360 that I haven't played yet because I was like, "Ooh, Akira Toriyama did the character design."
I remember. That. Yeah.
Something like that. I think just like is enough to hold my attention and overlook other stuff.
Yeah.
Which is like really basic and like childlike, but I think Dragon Quest also is just it was kind of a straightforward JRPG story, but it was also it was still like I found the characters, the individual party members to be unique. Not every single one of them was like an anime trope, which I thought was refreshing. At least not in the same way that it is others. I don't know. Like I really liked Sylvando. I thought that he was like
I love Sylvando.
The most interesting of all the characters.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm looking forward to it. I think I don't know. I think we got some time right now. Do you feel up to talking about Final Fantasy?
Yeah, let's go.
Remake,
I mean, we could talk about that. We could talk about Nier.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should. Let's talk about Final Fantasy 7, and then let's talk about Final Fantasy 7. If we have time, we can talk about Nier, because I feel like it's getting longer and longer since I played it, and I have thoughts on it, and I want to get it while it's still fresh. If that's cool with you.
What, Nier?
Final Fantasy 7.
Oh yeah, sure.
God, I wanted to like it. I
thought you said it was okay.
It was okay. It's just, for me, I really saw the seams of it. I haven't played the original, so keep that in mind. So I don't have rose-colored glasses looking at this or anything. Rose-tinted glasses. It's just, I saw everywhere that they were like, okay, we need to pad this out. Let's make this take 3 times the length of the trip. Like every time you get into an area, it's like, oh, we need to do this thing to progress. And it's never just, oh, do the one thing. It's always, we got to do this 3 times. Or, the times it has you loop back. And it feels aimless. It doesn't feel like it feels like it's for the purpose of padding out the overall playtime. It does not feel like it has a narrative justification for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, because that the entirety of Remake 1 takes place. I mean, you could finish that section in the original in like 5 hours, like 3 hours.
Yeah.
So that just, I mean, that's all you need to know.
Yeah. If it was 3 times the length of the original section in the original game, that would have been fine. Like if it was like a 15-hour game, I think I would have been very satisfied if they just cut out all the bullshit, all of the just, oh my god. And they really want you to do these side quests, and like they incentivize you to do the side quests with like little character moments where it's like, oh, discovery. Like, and they have like 2 characters have an interaction that they might not have otherwise, and it's not worth it.
That's the issue, I don't want to be right? Like we were talking about like Snyder Cut before. Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
Isn't that the issue?
Dan Snyder Cut.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. But like, isn't that the issue that like and for gaming, like this episodic bullshit? It's like, we need to make this longer because longer is better, but is that really the truth? Like, is it really necessary? I don't really think so.
Well, it feels like what's his name? The Kingdom Hearts guy.
Nomura.
Yeah. It feels like Nomura was like,
don't even get me to prove. Don't get me started on him. Oh my god.
It's like he really wanted to prove. It's like, no, this can be a full game in its own right, and it's just like, sure, if you make a lot of it boring, I'd say like some of the character writing is like, I think the characters are well developed. I just wish there wasn't like also all of it just like the very typical anime. Like, I don't know, if you want to keep it for the Japanese version, if that's like the way they're into the voice acting, that's fine. But if you have to include the in every conversation, it's just it wears on me long term. Like I don't find that charming in the same way like a weeb might. It's just it makes it feel unnatural, and it undercuts like Barrett has some like he's pretty based. Like he goes on some really awesome like monologues about like saving the earth and not taking shit from corporations and standing up to them and blah 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 blah. Like all that's really cool, but it's just it's totally undercut when there's just like a typical anime like Cloud isn't a compelling character because it feels like they're delaying his own development because he can't become too much of a character in this amount of time in the original game. So he can't really develop here. Barrett becomes a broken record, even though he's got really based takes because he has to stay relatively the same throughout the entire thing. Aerith is the only one that has like even a little bit of an arc. Tifa maybe a little bit too, but it's just like it just doesn't feel like it works well in this form.
It doesn't.
So
okay,
there's like all this setup that it expects you to understand. Like I'm pretty sure I saw like the Kate Sith cat, I think that's what it was at one point.
Yeah.
And he's like looking out over the destruction when the plate drops, and I'm like, and he's like, oh no, and I'm like, who the fuck is that? Is that the Kate Sith cat? Like that's like I barely know anything about this. And then at another point, I think they show, at the very end they show what's his face, Cloud's former comrade.
Oh, Zach.
Yeah, they show Zach. I'm like, am I supposed to know who this is? Like, it just shows you, and you're like, and it's like, yeah, he survived his fight. He's alive, and it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, like, yeah. So Final Fantasy was my favorite series, and then turned more like action oriented, and that's why I kind of moved away from it. But so yeah, I haven't played this remake yet. Actually,
I think you should. You're waiting for it to come out on PC, right?
I don't know. I got it free on PS Plus anyways last month.
Oh, that's right. Just don't do any of the side missions. The side missions aren't worth it. They're stupid, boring fetch quests or go kill this enemy. They're occupying the warehouse where I work, and I can't feed my family. Can you go kill these monsters, please? You have to use wind damage against them to get super effective hits. It's like, okay, cool. And like you go and do it.
I played the original when the remake came out. So I beat the game in like 25 hours. So it's not a long game, and they decided to stretch
this game is longer than the entirety of the first one. It was 30 hours.
Yeah. So by the time the remake series is done, I guess that's gonna be like 90 hours of content, which when you're stretching out 25 into 90, that's a lot of like bullshit that you're gonna have to add.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of anticipated this because I mean, like, obviously the
Tetsuya Nomura is infamous for this kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm jaded on him. I think he also did 15, which I didn't like at all. I don't know. I mean, I was just thinking, like, a lot of the charm that you convey in, like, text form, because the original didn't have voice acting.
Well, you can interpret it in the most favorable possible.
Yeah,
way.
like
you're reading in your head. Like that's my whole theory with like subbed versus dubbed anime. Voice acting.
Like I guess it's like an audiobook versus like a book, right?
Mm-hmm.
An audiobook, you're getting the interpretation of the voice that someone has created for you.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're reading a book, you create the way that dialogue is conveyed based on what you can read from the tone of what's going on.
You use your own instincts for that, and like I said, that's why I think a lot of people like claim to favor subtitles over dubbing in anime, and because they say, "Oh, subs are so good," like dubbing is terrible. I bet you for someone if you talk to someone who speaks Japanese, that dialogue is just as goddamn corny as it is in English, okay? That's not something that just changes because it's in a different language. The difference is people can't understand Japanese. A lot of weebs can't understand Japanese when they watch, and so they read the subtitles, and in their head, their reading of it in their head is totally appropriate. It isn't over the top. It isn't cringy, and they, as long as it's like, of moderate quality, and they go, oh wow, that was really great. And then when you hear someone being totally over the top and cheesy in the American often the American dubbing, it's then like the English language dub in general, it's like, oh man, that's so gross. It's just like you're blissfully ignorant of the reality of it. I think.
Are you saying are you telling the audience that you watch dubbed anime?
No, I don't. Actually, I did watch JoJo's dubbed for a lot of it because I think it's fitting for it to be corny. But no, I don't watch dubbed. But I just think that people who are such stalwarts about it, it's like, it's not any better. Like you have the benefit of not understanding it, and that's fine. not trying to like appropriate or fetishize it. I mean, to me, I don't understand it. It sounds cooler. It's what I associate like anime sounding like, and I'll just happily read the subtitles. It's like I don't understand what they're saying in Parasite, and that's fine because I'll just read the subtitles. And it's it's just I don't need to say that like oh man, I just wish every movie was in Korean and was subtitled in English. I can't wait to see There Will Be Blood dubbed in Korean with English subtitles. It's just like, no, it's however it's meant to be should be how it is, and if you have to read subtitles, you have to read subtitles. And it's not just like this, but I think that's why people like it. People I think just give way too much credit to the dialogue. It's like, it is what it is, and you can enjoy it still, but just don't think like, oh, this is like this is Shakespeare in Japanese, but when it's in English it's like a soap opera. It's like, no, it's it's just you just understand it. Anyways, just like the padding is really annoying. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, it felt like they really harp on Sephiroth a lot. Like I said, like I have none of the weight. I didn't play any other form of 7. I have Crisis Core on
Crisis
my
Core
Vita.
Is really good.
Oh yeah, so maybe I should play that because I'm emulating the PSP.
I mean,
Vita.
I'll go ahead and say Crisis Core is probably better than 7.
Oh shit, really?
It's like
it's
so.
like the same art style and everything as like the movies they made before too, right?
As much as you can on the PSP. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like the cutscenes and stuff, right? Or just like the animated movies they made.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt way too long. A lot of stuff felt like filler, and it's similar to like we'll get into Cyberpunk eventually, maybe when you eventually play it, but it just feels like wasted potential. Where it's just like I can totally see this being a very fun experience and satisfying experience. 15 hours. The combat is fun. I had a lot of boneheaded. Like I fought the evil house boss, and I was being a dumbass in that fight, and it lasted way longer than it needed to because I wasn't. Oops, excuse me. Sorry, I didn't turn off my freaking phone notifications. But it lasted way longer because I was like, oh, I didn't understand like the typing. You're supposed to use it in the fight and everything. But so that was fun, but it wore on me after a while, and I'm just not interested in getting super tactical about it. So there were some fights that were just like really needed you to be, and I was just like, okay, I just want to get through this. Though, to its credit, I actually ended up treating like the last couple of bosses more like kind of like Dark Souls fights, and it kind of worked out. Like I was looking up guides and being like, oh, I need to cast barrier and haste and like blah, 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 and all this stupid stuff to like get set up, and like I was having trouble like getting it set up that way, and then I just kind of was like, no, how about I just get good like I do in Dark Souls, and we'll see how it goes. And it ended up working out okay. So to its credit, let me play like that, I guess. I just wish I kept hoping. I was like, oh man, is it gonna end now? Is it? Oh please, like I would be okay if it ended now, and just kept going and going and going and going. I hope the follow-ups are a lot less indulgent and just aren't so focused on drawing things out, if they even ever come out. Like I don't know, because at this rate, how many other parts are there gonna have to be to finish the game?
At least 2 or 3, probably.
I mean, well, you get we there's, what is it called? Interlude, not interlude. What is it? You know what I'm talking about? The PS5 version.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking. I don't know what it's called, but yeah.
Interstice.
Yeah.
Hold on, excuse the keyboard
it's
noises.
Like, I don't know, dude. We'll have kids by the time the last one comes out.
Oh God, that's scary to think about.
I'm not even like joking. Like
Intergrade.
I
Intergrade is what it's called.
Like I truly believe that we'll have kids by the time this series is finished. And that's kind of sad.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that this wasn't like some monumental thing built up in my head that I was looking forward to for years and years and years. It's just it's something that I was like, oh, it's supposed to be good, so I'll play a little bit of it and whatever. And I'll probably play the follow-ups. I'm getting the Intergrade upgrade for free, so I'll play that with what's her face, the Ninja Girl.
Oh, Yuffie.
And yeah, Yuffie, and because I recognize her from the first Kingdom Hearts that I never finished, and don't know anything about Kingdom Hearts either. But that I'd probably hate Tetsuya Nomura way more too if I'd played all the Kingdom Hearts games. It's too bad. It ended up being like like a 3 out of 5 when it would have been like a 4 or 5 out of 5 if it was just not so intent on hitting like that 30-hour mark. It's just weird. Like I don't know what standard they're holding themselves to, trying to reach that. It's just like, why does it have to be that long? It just didn't feel justified at all, and it puzzled me and frustrated me.
Maybe it's because people, I don't know. Maybe people complain these days that there's not enough content in a game because how many short games do we really have recently, like these days? Like AAA titles.
Got Titanfall 2 had like a 5-hour campaign, and that was great.
But that's also a multiplayer game.
Yeah, and the first game didn't have a campaign, so it's like it wasn't being held. Outer Worlds was like relatively short. It was like 20. It's like 20 hours for a playthrough if you're not like trying to like be a completionist about it, just kind of playing through at a natural pace. And I thought that was great. It wasn't like Final Fantasy. No, Final Fantasy. Oh my god! It wasn't Fallout New Vegas, just like in a new engine and dissociated from the Fallout IP, so that it could be that. Like I was kind of hoping it would be, but it's unrealistic because like it was kind of like a AA game, I guess, more so than like a AAA. It's kind of like in the same realm as like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, where it's
I love that game.
Have that massive budget. I need to play that too. I need to get on it. I started it and I never finished it, so I have to go back. But yeah, that was short, and I really liked it. And overall, it was well reviewed. I think I've seen a lot of people turn on it since the Outer Worlds, saying that like it just like wasn't enough depth or whatever. But I think it's more so just that they were expecting something at the scale of Fallout or Elder Scrolls, because it is Obsidian. But I think what's there is really, really solid. The character writing in that game is really good. Has some of the best companions I've seen in a video game recently. The commentary is spot on. And that was if that's the thing. I felt like I had way more freedom and options and choice, and like I don't know, if Final Fantasy VII Remake had 30 hours of content but then let me do a 15-hour playthrough if I wanted to, I wouldn't complain, because it was up to me. But at a certain point, like and I started off doing like a lot of the side missions, so I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get like a cool weapon or something. You don't. You get stupid character interactions that are 30 seconds long, and it's not worth it. And it really jaded me towards the end, where I was just like, I'm not doing any side missions. They're like, you're gonna want to do side missions before you go here, because then it's like, and like the last 4 chapters are like you're like locked in on a super linear path. And I was just like, I don't care about getting the side missions done. Like, just get me to the end, please. Like, fast track me. So yeah, I think it can be done.
I feel like
games don't have to be long.
Yeah, I feel like Final Fantasy VII is actually one of the worst ones.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
I say
it's
this
the most
as
beloved one, man.
I say this as someone who's played every single one besides 11 and Remake, actually.
Wow.
Of like the main entries,
really
entries, not all the side stuff.
Did you play Type 0 HD?
I tried to. I couldn't get through it.
I have no idea what it's about, but I knew I was like, a Final Fantasy game rated M. Whoa.
I think 7's reputation does it a disservice. I mean, I still think it's a really good game, the original.
You can just never meet those expectations now, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's kind of like the way I view like Zelda games. If I play Breath of the Wild or Ocarina of Time, I'm never gonna get the experience like the way that other people talk about it, that way. Well, I think Final Fantasy VII is well regarded because it was like groundbreaking at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know, I find 9 objectively better, and it was on the same system.
Yeah.
I find like even like 10 is my favorite one, but 13 was like hated by pretty much everyone, all the fans in that series, and I still think 13 is way better. Honestly, I played
a little bit of 13.
I think it's better than 7.
Damn. I played a little bit of 15. I don't. I guess this is like kind of
15's
indicative
trash.
of my history.
15's trash.
With JRPGs. Yeah, like 13, I couldn't manage to get there. Same with 15. 15, actually, I wasn't minding, but just the combat got super repetitive. Like I will say that. Yeah.
Stupid.
Like I think 7 Remake is like the better version of that combat.
Yeah.
So if they keep that system around, like was it 16 that's coming out now soon?
Oh, I have no
that could be compelling.
I have no hopes for that game.
We'll see. But if they keep that same combat system from 7 Remake, that could be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Now, a game that I spent more time on that I wasn't disappointed by was Nier Automata. It took me a long time to finish it. I started playing it like a while ago, and I just was playing it bits and pieces. I don't know. It's just like I guess that's the pace I needed to take with it. But it really came together at the end. I was a little bit. I was wondering in the middle because I remember like everyone was talking about like, well, when I was wrapping up like the first leg of the story, like the A ending and everything, when you play as 2B,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, maybe this isn't like, people were like really praising the storytelling and everything, and I was just like, I mean, it's okay so far. Like the combat's really interesting. Like it's like maybe the most anime combat I've seen in terms of like being able to do like the disappearing dodge and then like reappearing and continuing a combo and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was like very very anime. I thought like the world building was interesting. The art style was cool.
We could talk about this next episode, like a long discussion.
Yeah, you want to commit to a longer one?
Dude,
okay, that's like, my initial impressions.
This is like okay, like my top. I'm gonna say Nier might be my favorite game of all time.
Wow. Okay. Then what, with that amount of weight behind it, we'll save it for next time. I was thinking we could go for another 15 minutes.
Oh no, we could do that too.
With that kind of weight. No. Let's save it. We'll go in strong next time.
Okay.
And we'll say like okay. But I will say I liked it. I enjoyed it. It really came together at the end. I was doubtful initially, and I was like, it's okay, but at the end, yeah, I think it was chef's kiss. I'll definitely play Nier Replicant when that comes out.
So excited.
Let's see. Any final thoughts here? I would just say also, I recently finished the documentary series Q Into the Storm. If Dan happens to watch it, we might come back around.
Is that on HBO?
But I think, yeah, it's on HBO. It's 6 episodes. It's really, really interesting. For us, I think like we have, we've kind of like tangentially witnessed stuff around like 4chan and 8chan and stuff. Like I don't know if either of us have been like super involved in those things, but we've kind of like gone out of like kind of like a morbid curiosity and looked once or twice, and it's like, ooh, yeah, this is a real cesspit.
And I know a guy who was huge on 4chan and like that community.
Yeah, if you are that's a mark against your character.
Yeah,
I firmly believe that. I mean, I don't think like I don't you shouldn't buy into the media narrative that like everyone on 4chan is like a dark web hacker. It's just dudes in their basement who are like dissatisfied a lot of the time, who have like really edgy senses of humor, and it's just kind of like a lot of those communities end up being kind of sad because it's just like all these guys kind of mutually wallowing in self-pity, and it's not healthy. But it's really interesting looking at Q Into the Storm and how they talk to Frederick Brennan, who is the creator of 8chan, and he's only a little bit older. Actually, is he your age? He was born in '94, so he's So he's a little bit older, but he's just like, he's someone who was very clearly up. Excuse the background noise. He was someone who was like born into the internet, like, and like to not to make him sound like Bane, but he's someone who was very clearly his character and his thinking was very strongly influenced by the internet growing up, but he's also gotten a lot of distance on it now. And he's got like a pretty decent perspective on it. It's really interesting to hear his takes on everything. He's kind of become a warrior advocating for the destruction of his creation. So I thought that was really good. Watch if you get a chance. It gives really interesting insights into like the whole QAnon phenomena. Yeah, I know it's really interesting. Just how the internet has been used to basically fool potentially millions of people in this country now. So. On that, they are not slightly dogmatic. They are very dogmatic. So, with that, for reference, if you ever think that we're coming on strong, at least we're not QAnoners. So, anyways, I'd like to thank everyone for listening in this time for this episode. We'll see you guys in the next episode, where I guess we're going to talk about Nier and maybe some other stuff. Maybe we'll watch some more movies in between now and then that we can talk about too. We always have a wealth of things that we're ready to talk about. So, yeah, thanks for listening. Dan, you want to say anything before we go?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, thanks for listening. Look forward to us talking about Nier for probably half an hour next time.
Well, if it is really solid Nier talk, maybe we'll have like a time code you can do if that's not your vibe. We'll let you skip to a certain time code.
Yeah, maybe we'll do like a favorite games or movies of all time eventually.
Oh yeah, that's definitely gonna be like something where maybe if we haven't like if nothing new has come out recently or we haven't watched anything from our backlog recently,
Yeah.
we'll tackle that, and that might be a multi-part series.
Yeah.
So yeah, look forward to that eventually in the future. Thanks for listening, you guys. Hey, if you like this, tell a friend about it. Rate us on your podcast platform of choice. It helps us out, and we appreciate any feedback. Leave a comment. And we'll there's also an option through Anchor to set up like voice messages if you guys want to leave that. So if that's something anyone's interested in, hit us up on our socials. At Slightly Dogmatic on Twitter. I'm sorry, it's at _dogmatic because character limit, and at Slightly Dogmatic on Instagram. You can find all these links on our Anchor page. So anchor.fm/Slightly Dogmatic, and through there you'll be able to get to all of our socials. And yeah, we appreciate anything, tell a friend, or even just listening. It means a lot. So thanks a lot, you guys. We'll see you next week.